At the end of the concert, I stopped to take in the architecture of our beautiful 11th century abbey. I watched the audience file out and then the instrumentalists exchanging smiles, congratulations and goodbyes as the weather changes and the wind picks up. Music at Malling is in its 12th year, a festival that brings amazing musicians to historic venues in and around West Malling. The festival and musical programme, orchestrated by Tom Kemp, is thoughtful, broad and varied in its choices from around the world, from Renaissance to premieres from contemporary composers. The architecture and surroundings are very much part of the musical experience, and as I never feel that comfortable with a stark sheet of white paper, I'll start drawing on the blank pages of my sketchbook. A background layer of architectural features, windows, lamps, the irregular stonework, or the pattern of the parquet floor of St Mary's Church. All these coloured marks appearing as dreamy notes drift over me, the sound of the orchestra tuning up in the belfry. As I sit and wait for the concert to begin, it's nice when people come and chat to me and kindly give me an ego boost by saying, so you're the famous sketcher, or I saw your drawings in the window of the White Studios and they were quite good. And sometimes my sketchbook elicits a somewhat bemused response, and I try to explain that I'm not exactly trying to draw what I see, as I can never outdo the camera, and cameras make it perfectly accurate so much quicker. I'm guided by what I see, what I hear, what I feel, my emotional reaction to the music. Why am I being so defensive? As well as trying to imagine what's behind the music stand. Bit like Photoshop then, says a man next to me, and suggests I sit in the front row instead, making at least one less thing between me and the subject matter. Or possibly because he was saving that seat for his wife. Yes, it's a good point, I said, but I don't want to make an exhibition of myself and try to be a bit more discreet. Besides, I don't want to put the musicians off. Well, they're professionals, he says. I think they can handle it. Another good point, as now I regret not sitting in the front row as a very tall man sits directly in front of me. This is the point where everything starts to get a bit more abstract and the drawing becomes more of an expression of the music. You have to adapt to every situation and try to choose your vantage point with consideration, based on the positioning of the chairs and the music stands, this time trying to imagine what is going to happen. And so the stage is set for the musicians to appear as I do my best to capture them in bold graphite. The church, as well as being a dramatic venue, practically speaking, provides a perfect shelf on the back of each pew to perch your pencils, rubbers and sharpener. The music provides ideas for drawings and compositions. Staccato, adagio, slow, soft, angry, funny, sad, lively. The pencil is controlled by a multitude of emotions. The attire is smart, jackets and ties, and for the ladies a bit more flamboyance is allowed. I do my best to try and capture the flavour. I let the patterns drift off the page like musical notes. The jazz concerts have a slightly different cool vibe. I love the stances and the looks. I'm thinking, I want to be like that. I want to be in that groove. These guys have got style. Look at that cool dude on the double bass with his streams of curls on top and his stubble peering over his large round glasses with marvellously expressive eyebrows. Whereas the lady next to me, who turns out to be an optician, is thinking, wear your glasses properly, young man, willing them to the bridge of his nose. During the interval we discussed that afternoon's organ recital and how, until the organ is really highlighted, you don't actually consider the incredible feat of engineering to create a church organ. How these magnificent instruments developed and became bigger and more elaborate, organs outdoing organs until we have an instrument difficult to outdo in terms of its impressive sound. With the organist hidden away, you don't see all the stops and the foot pedals, the keys corresponding to valves and thousands of pipes from quiet soft sounds to pulling out all the stops and feeling the awesome power at your fingertips. That expression manifested in sound enveloping that incredible space. The Pilsden Chapel is another beautiful venue, originally part of the old monastery in West Malling, a wonderfully evocative medieval stone building to come across along a leafy lane behind the High Street. Everyone waits patiently outside as last-minute rehearsals are taking place. When at last we're allowed in, the legendary Mr. Skeeping in his floppy hat and bow tie is tuning the harpsichord. He asks that, if the audience can be quiet, it will be a much quicker process. But to little avail. As I quietly follow my instructions, we give each other a knowing and resigned smile. The music is of course exquisitely performed, and one of the composers, Deborah Pritchard, happens to be sitting right behind me. She's also an artist and talks about how she creates visualizations of music in the form of maps. I learn the word synesthesia, perceiving music as colours, as her compositions are inspired by subjects such as beautiful gemstones. We both agree that creativity can take different forms and you don't have to do just one thing. I can only imagine the work of organisation that goes into music at Malling, the planning of the pieces performed, the emails and phone calls to get everyone here at the right time. All these interconnected journeys making a spider's web of stories. The musicians, staying with the locals, getting invited to join the church choir like they didn't already have international careers. But it all comes together seamlessly, musicians and their instruments, that feat of craftsmanship and frets and keys and strings and reeds and valves, so practiced, so in tune that that instrument has become an extension of themselves, and that level of expression that cannot be put into words. For every musician that came to our town this September and October, where did it start? Shaking a rattle when you were 2, blowing your first plastic recorder? Who could have imagined the possibilities then?